how does stress affect a factory worker's resilience? I'll be talking about this from the historical and ethical lens. But first, I'd like to go through the pros and cons. Pros of stress include it can provide motivation and energy to meet deadlines and goals, help build resilience and coping skills in small doses, can improve memory and cognitive functions. Some cons of stress include chronic stress can lead to physical and mental health problems. It impairs decision-making and problem-solving abilities, and it interferes with the quality of sleep. Some pros of resilience include ability to adapt to recover from adversity, increased emotional intelligence and self-awareness, and greater sense of purpose and fulfillment in life. Some cons of resilience include difficulty in recognizing and addressing underlying mental health issues, tendency to take too much responsibility and stress, and potential burnout and exhaustion from constant adaptation and recovery efforts. Since both resilience and stress play significant roles in our lives, it's crucial to take strike a healthy balance between both. Stress can temporarily provide us with inspiration and energy, while resilience helps us overcome adversity and become stronger. However, excessive stress can also result in burnout and harmful health effects, so it's crucial to control stress levels and get outside help when you need it. Rapid industrialization occurred throughout the Industrial Revolution, but many employees also had occupational diseases and injuries during this time. Long hours, low pay, and hazardous equipment were just a few of the hazardous working conditions that were present for employees in factories, mines, and other factory settings. Cuts, burns, and fractures were common injuries, and exposure to dangerous chemical substances were also a major cause of lung disease and cancer. In certain cases, unsafe working circumstances resulted in workers' death, which prompted the development of labor laws and regulations to safeguard workers' rights and safety. Even with these precautions, occupational disease and injuries were still a major problem today. In 1793, Eli Whitney invented the groundbreaking cotton gin that greatly increased the productivity of cotton produced in America. The mechanism separated cotton fibers from the seeds, a time-consuming task that had previously been carried out by hand. The cotton gin had disadvantages, even though it had significant economic impacts and aided the expansion of the cotton industry in the southern United States. More slave laborers were needed to cultivate and harvest cotton due to the cotton gin's rising demand. The physical strain and harm that slaves experienced as a result of their long working hours and dangerous working conditions were not lessened by the adoption of the cotton gin. In addition, the cotton gin's lack of safeguards and fast-moving parts frequently resulted in accidents like the amputations of workers' hands and fingers. Factory workers usually experience high levels of stress as a result of the demanding, repetitive nature of their labor, the long hours, and the unpredictability of their employment. They might be under pressure to finish projects fast and meet production objectives, which could exhaust them emotionally and physically. The noise and environmental risks that are present in factories, as well as bad working conditions, include inadequate ventilation, uncomfortable temperatures, can also cause stress. Workplace stress can also result from employment insecurity and concern that losing their job might make it impossible for them to sustain families and themselves. These demands could also be detrimental to a worker's mental health, raising their risk of accidents and triggering dejection, anxiety, and burnout. A study in Ethiopia on the effects of work-related stress explains the psychological effects of working in the textile industry. This result examined the psychosocial and clinical characteristics, drug use, and suicidal behavior of 403 people. The majority of those surveyed acknowledge using drugs occasionally or have done so at least once in their life. 29% of respondents said they had recently used drugs, while 76.7% of them said they had considered suicide. Additionally, some workers had health issues such as TB, type 2 diabetes, and hypertension. The majority of the negative effects were mostly caused by the factory environment. Addiction to drugs and thought of suicide are signs of depression and low self-worth. The days are boring and there is no sense of success for a worker. This can lead to a compromised mental health. It is similar to The Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela because it talks about Mandela's life and the struggle he went through to abolish apartheid. In prison, Mandela talks about how time slows down and the days seem endless, similar to how factory workers' life because a factory worker may feel as if they're in a time loop repeating the same task. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years of his life in prison because of opposing the apartheid laws instilled in South Africa. Though this form of injustice was combated and fixed, it cost a lot of time and effort to be able to achieve the abolishment of apartheid. The connection between the amount of time Mandela spent in jail compared to a worker's life are two different situations, but the similarities between them consist of what to do with all that spare time. A worker performs routines such as those on a manufacturing line. A prisoner only looks out for themselves while incarcerated, takes care of their mental health, and works on necessary projects. Additionally, a prisoner is forced to spend time with people with whom they may not have a deep connection with, which can exacerbate anger and stress. For factory workers, the same holds true. Despite being linked with a coworker, a worker may not feel particularly connected to them. Problems with the productivity and quality control may follow from this. Hence, unhampered mental health, a sense of accomplishment, and a high self-esteem in a factory can guarantee higher quality output. Although better productivity would result from mental health that is unhampered, in the end, physical health deterioration is inevitable. Physical health can be endangered by machinery used in a factory. Workers are faced with using industrial machinery that makes tasks easier to complete, such as nail guns, saws, scaffolds, and ladders. This results in various injuries, such as stapling limbs, cutting body parts off mistakenly, or falling and fracturing a bone, or even death. Workers who commonly face these injuries are males. According to a study done in India, it was evident that males had a higher chance of sustaining injuries at work because of machinery used in factories. Compared to females, males have a 2.29% higher chance of injury. This is thought to be because of males' willingness towards risky behavior. Married workers also fall into this category of getting injured easily because they get exhausted and a lack of sleep because of the chores they have at home. These injuries deter workers from their job. Other examples from recent past include the 2021 fire at a food processing facility in Nebraska that claimed the lives of 2 employees, as well as the 2019 explosion in Texas that killed 2 people and injured many others. Such incidents highlight the value of giving safety and compliance procedures top priority in industrial workplaces by having devastating effects on employees, families, and to the local community. To reduce the risk of accidents and injuries, employers must be proactive in identifying and mitigating possible dangers, providing proper safety training and equipment, and establishing efficient emergency response plans. According to a study done on manufacturing employees and miners for a factory, stress levels among these individuals rose by 95% when exposed to a dust known as asbestos. When woven into materials like fireproof blankets, asbestos is utilized as a heat-resistant substance. Inhaling this asbestos can result in a number of issues, most notably mesothelioma. The outer coating of the heart, lungs, and other internal organs is all destroyed by it. Mining and working with specific minerals in a plant are 2 ways that workers can get this dangerous cancer. The Dark Side of Resilience by Thomas Chamorro, Prairie Music, and Derek Luss is crucial to this, since it illustrates the difficulties one faces and the effects resilience to these difficulties has. According to the Dark Side of Resilience, both too little and too much resilience might prevent a person from pursuing goals, taking calculated risks, or recovering from setbacks. In a factory environment, resilience can be both helpful and harmful. On the other hand, resilient employees are able to tolerate mental health and physical rigors of factory labor, such as monotonous jobs, long hours, and exposure to dangers from the environment. Workers that are resilient can handle stress and recover from failures, which can keep them engaged and productive in demanding work contexts. On the other hand, relying too much on resilience may cause employees to ignore or tolerate risky warnings, conditions, or unhealthful work practices. When employees are under pressure to work through pain or discomfort, it might result in significant disease or injury. In addition, the expectation of resilience may foster a culture that prioritizes productivity over an employee's well-being and safety. In conclusion, these movements have made a point of emphasizing the significance of fostering and dealing with stress in recognition of the harm that occupational stress and exploitation can cause to people and communities. From an ethical standpoint, the benefit of developing resilience and reducing stress has only grown as a result of new challenges that modern workers must overcome, such as the COVID-19 epidemic, globalization, and digitization. Moral work practices that preserve each employee's rights and dignity. Employers can do this by promoting a workplace that is more equitable and sustainable, which benefits both workers and society at large.
Round of applause. What evidence did you gather that you didn't include, and why did you choose not to include it?
Some evidence I gathered that I chose not to include it involved a case that was about, I'm pretty sure it was about like how some workers they were injured, but it wasn't really the fact that they were injured that caused it. It was like because of the procedures that they chose, like the precautionary measures in a factory, because they were smelling gas, and it didn't really like the supervisor didn't release them, so they were just sitting inside there, and then the building just exploded. And I chose not to include that because it didn't really like contribute to my point of view on this question.
Okay, thank you. What additional questions emerged from your research, and why are they important?
Some original questions that emerged are how, like, what is like the age range, and like who are the people that are most commonly injured. And it was found that children are a part of this. There's like child labor involved in this, and they're the ones getting injured the most because they have to work with the machinery that moves fast, like the cotton gin. Like the little boy that was in this picture right here, he was working on the cotton gin.
Yeah, okay, all right. Thank you, another round of applause.